the luxury segment, our first speaker. Our first speaker is Ms. Sheila Lobien. Sheila is the Chief Executive Officer and the main force in putting up the Lobien Realty Group, Inc., a full-service real estate consultancy and property investment strategy firm engaged in commercial and office space leasing, capital investments optimization, and property acquisition and sales. So I'd like to call on stage Ms. Sheila Lobien. Hi, Sheila.
Hello,
How are you doing?
I mean, so
it's
happy
been
to be here.
It's been what, 2-3 years since we've last seen each other. Mostly it's been webinars and online forums. So without further ado, I will turn the mic over to Sheila for her presentation.
Thank you. All right. So, again, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and to see people, live audience, because as Tech mentioned, it's been a while. We haven't had any live event. So I'm glad that I'm here meeting you all, and I'll be talking about the office market. I have a few slides to share with you before I start my presentation. All right. Okay. So I'll talk about the office market, and as shared in my other talks in the past, it's always one of the best barometers when you want to check the health of the economy, because whenever an office space is built and taken, then that means there are jobs being created in the market. And when people have jobs, of course, they have money to spend, they will eventually buy properties. And companies as well will expand and will take office space. So let's go to the first slide. As a real estate practitioner and in the Lobien Realty Group, we always look at these 4 real estate indicators. And when you look at GDP from construction, building permits, and real estate loans, all of these 3 are moving up. So these are all good indication that there is confidence in the market. Private sectors are again moving, expanding, constructing. GDP from construction is up, meaning big developers such as Ortigas and the others are developing, building either office, hotel, residential, malls, etc. When you look at the building permits, of course, it went down during the peak of the pandemic because people cannot move. But today, it's going up, and the forecast is that it will continue to do so. Real estate loans also coming from residential and commercial loans, both of them steadily increasing. In fact, when you look at this from 2008 up to today, it was actually not affected. So people are borrowing money, companies are borrowing money to invest in the property market. So it's a very resilient market. It's tangible, it's durable, and the property, as mentioned by Tech, will stay there forever, right? So let's move to the next slide. The interest rate, sorry, I forgot to touch on this. As we all know, it's moving up, but then again, it's one of the ways that the current administration is doing to mitigate the inflation. And inflation is another topic, and as we all know, it's one of the biggest concerns of us here in the Philippines and people around the world. Let's go to the next slide. So I'd like to first show you the Philippine demographic. I want to start many of my presentation with this one because, as we all know, I'm a proud, well, you, of course, all of you should be a proud Filipino. I'm a proud Filipina. And a lot of companies are coming here in the Philippines because of this, sweet spot, the big population. A lot of us, a lot of Filipinos can speak English. Almost half of us are in the labor market, very young, average age of around 25, 26 years old, and you can't get that in other parts of the world. Our Asian neighbors are getting older, in Europe as well. They don't want to have kids anymore, but us in the Philippines, very young population. Almost all of us can speak English. Our GDP growth rate is also improving. When you look at the forecast this year is again what? Looking at 6% growth. And any growth beyond that is actually good. And all the economic managers and even the local banks, they're saying that this year will be again a good year for us. So we're really in that recovery stage right now. Now let me go deeper and talk about the office market. So very busy slide, but what I'd like to highlight here is the relationship of the GDP growth rate and the rental rates in the market and the vacancy rate. So of course, when the Philippine economy is doing well, when there are jobs in the market, all businesses are flourishing and growing, rental rates will go up. And that's because the demand for office space also has gone up. And vacancy rate obviously will go down, meaning almost all the office spaces out there are fully leased. And that's what we've seen in the last, pre-pandemic. So when the global financial crisis happened in 2008, here in the Philippines, we felt that, but it was so short. Because after that, a lot of big firms started to put up shop here in the country. So the BPO, the outsourcing industry, flourished from 2010 up to almost 2020, the early part before the pandemic happened. We've seen growth in the outsourcing industry. The Philippines right now is the #1 call center in the world, second when it comes to voice. India is still #1 there, but we're in the second. A lot of engineers, a lot of accounting firms are also putting up shop here, doing that higher value work. And as you can see, from 2010 up to 2019, we've seen the growth in the real estate segment. The Philippine economy grew, and a lot of office spaces were built all over the country. Hotels flourished, malls, shopping center, and several condominiums in the market. Today is a different story. The vacancy rate is quite high, simply because the POGOs left the country. But the outsourcing industry, they're still forecasting growth. And hopefully in the next few quarters or few years, we'll see a good take-up in the office market. So this slide is all about the supply side, the landlord side. So earlier I showed the relationship between what's happening in the economy and the rental rates and the vacancy rate. This slide, however, tells you that when the market is not doing well, the landlords, the developers also will stop developing or will pause their projects. But when the market is moving up, when the economy is really doing well, of course, developers such as Ortigas Land here will continue to pump up, of course, and put up more projects because the demand is high. There will be buyers, there will be takers, there will be companies who will expand. And this is the relationship of that. Today, the vacancy rate as shared is on the high side. Pre-pandemic, it was just a single digit, 5%. So almost all the buildings that you see all over are taken, and we were all fighting for space for our clients. So we're running a real estate brokerage firm. And I remember back in 2019, it was so hard to get an office for a client. And even condominiums, almost all the rental condo market at that time were taken because of the Chinese, the POGO market, and the outsourcing industry. Today is on the recovery as shared. The vacancy rate is double digit, 20%, 4 times compared to pre-pandemic. But there are some good news already. Next one. So vacancy rate as shared, 21%. But despite that, if you look at the average rent, it's still growing, steadily increasing. It was affected, definitely, but it didn't go down so low. We didn't see the same impact like in the global financial crisis. That is because there are a lot of companies who are still very committed. The outsourcing industry, they're stable, they're still taking space, and their contracts are long-term. Moving on. The city snapshot. Can't see it. Okay. So if you look at the supply, I can't read this. All right, there. So if you want to know where is the most expensive or the highest in terms of rental, definitely Makati and BGC will be the highest. But there are a lot of companies who are looking at cost-effective location. And we highlighted Pasig and Mandaluyong. Ortigas Center is in that area. And as you can see, it has one of the most competitive rental rates in the market. That's why a lot of big companies are also locating in this area. They captured the labor market in the north, Quezon City, and here in the Ortigas, Mandaluyong area. In terms of land value also, of course, it's cheaper compared to the prime CBDs, Makati and Taguig. So there are a lot of opportunities there because prices of property is still relatively low compared to the high ones. In terms of demand, pre-pandemic, as shared, the Chinese, the POGO players were taking space. They somehow took over bigger than the BPO industry. But again, today, the outsourcing industry is leading the way, 45% in terms of take-up and 8% for the online gaming. It has increased already if you will compare 2021 versus 2022. City supply, just for your appreciation, how much space, how much office spaces are there here in Ortigas, Pasig, Mandaluyong, San Juan area. It's around 378,000 square meters. And there's a healthy pipeline of office spaces. The confidence of the developers are, of course, still there. Demographics. I just want to touch on this because we're talking about Ortigas today. There are many players already in the area, big call centers, big BPO companies, all the infrastructure are also here. Good, connectivity, doesn't flood, but in some areas it does. But at least in the center, in the major CBD, it does not. And there are many hotels also in the area. Let's go to the next slide. So there you go. Just key takeaways. I've shared that in the office market, there are still some challenges because of the hybrid work, that work from home. But the good news is, if you're a tenant or an investor looking for properties today, it's good to negotiate with a landlord, with a developer, because they can give you good terms. They're quite flexible, so today is actually the best time. Actually, yesterday is the best time to make your investment, but it's still not late because the market is still just recovering. Prices of properties are still relatively low compared to the pre-pandemic levels. And the overall outlook right now is quite positive. As shared, many economic managers are forecasting 6% growth rate, and as I have shared earlier, 6% is a very good indicator because when the market again is recovering, moving, doing so well, companies will expand, they will take office space, and if there is a good employment, when people are again, they have a good job and work, they'll have the money to buy properties, they'll have the money to rent. And that's what we're here today. We'll talk about the opportunities that we can see in the area. And with that, I'd like to turn over the floor to Tech again.
Thank you so much again, Sheila. Can you stay with me for a while? So clearly, based on your talk, we are seeing some light at the end of the tunnel. And
a bright light now.
A bright light, very bright light. So for all our investors here, I think as Sheila mentioned, now more than ever is the best time to invest in an office space when it's still a buyer's market. So again, we'll be hearing more from Sheila. Thank you, Sheila. But now,